To our presentation on Chapter 6 of the book, which is Sensation and Perception. Today we're going to be talking about vision, hearing, taste, touch, smell, so we hope you enjoy.
What we see as light is only a tiny slice of a wide spectrum of electromagnetic energy. A light's wavelength is the distance from one wave peak to the next, and it determines its hue, which is the color we see. Intensity is the amount of energy in light waves, and it influences the brightness of colors. Light enters the eye through the cornea, which protects the eye and bends light to provide focus. Light then goes through the pupil, which is surrounded by the iris, which controls the size of the pupil in response to the amount of light. Behind the pupil is a lens that focuses light rays into an image on the retina. There are several types of visual information processing and how our eyes process different things we see. One type is called feature detection processing, and this is when nerve cells that are specifically focused on feature recognition. Social animals, such as humans, have a considerably larger portion of the brain dedicated to this task. Another type of visual information processing is parallel processing, and this is when brain cells process combined information about depth, color, motion, and form. Also, recognition is when the brain interprets the constructed image based on information from stored images.
Today we have with us Caleb McKinney, who is an expert in the scientific field of vision. So let's tell us an interesting fact about vision.
Why, thank you. Yes, as you can see, light travels differently through different media. So, light traveling through the air is different than light that travels through this cup of water. So, as you can see, the pen doesn't appear to be where the pen actually is. So you can see the pen comes in and then it kind of shifts down at a different angle. So remember, what you see may not always be what's actually going on.
When we visually process something, it's actually because of our mental constructions. Isaac Newton once said,
"The light rays are not colored. Color, like all aspects of vision, reside not in the object, but in the theater of our brain."
It's really a mystery that we see the world in color. In fact, we can discriminate more than 1 million different color variations with only the light waves of 3 primary colors, which are red, green, and blue. According to the Young-Helmholtz trichromatic theory, our eye receptors do all the color magic in teams of 3. It even goes a little further than this. 3 sets of opponent retinal processes, which are red, green, yellow, blue, and white, black, enable color vision. In the retina, some neurons are turned on by different colors when we see different things. But it's one thing to understand how we see shapes and colors, and it's another to interpret or organize the sights that we have so that they become meaningful perceptions. To start, we separate faces from their background. So this is called form perception. In our eye-brain system, our first task is to perceive any object, which is the figure, as distinct from its background. So an example is when we read, we're picking up the words, which is the figure, versus the white blank page, which is the foreground. So once you've discriminated the figure from the ground, we must next organize the figure into a meaningful form. Our mind brings order and form to stimuli by following certain rules for grouping. We group things in 3 different ways. For proximity, we group nearby figures together. We also perceive smooth, continuous patterns rather than discontinuous ones, and this is called continuity. And last, we fill in the gaps to create a complete whole object, and this is called closure. But depth perception is also crucial to organizing and interpreting what we see. It enables us to estimate an object's distance from us. So we begin to perceive depth really as a young kid. But how do we transform 2 different 2-dimensional retinal images into a single 3-dimensional form? First, 2 eyes are always better than 1. Because our eyes are 2.5 inches apart, our retinas receive
Hearing, auditory perception, and audition is the ability to perceive sound by detecting vibrations, changes in pressure of the ear surrounding medium through time, through an organ such as the ear. Sound may be heard through solid, liquids, and gases. It is one of the traditional five senses. The inability to hear is called deafness. In humans and other vertebrates, hearing is performed primarily by auditory system, known as vibrations are detected by the ear and into the nerve impulse that are perceived by the brain. Like touch, auditory requires sensitivity to movement of molecules in the world outside of the organism. Both hearing and touch are types of mechosensation. Outer ear, the outer ear includes the pinna, the visible part of the ear, as well as the ear canal, which terminates at the eardrum, also called the tympanic membrane. The middle ear consists of a small air-filled chamber that is located in the middle of the eardrum. With this chamber are the three smallest bones of the body, known collectively as osculus, which include the malleus, incus, and stapes. They aid transmission and amplification of the vibrations. The inner ear consists of the cochlea, which is a spiral-shaped fluid-filled tube. It is divided lengthwise by an organ or torta, which is the main organ of the mechanic to neural transduction. Inside the organ of the cortea is the basilar membrane, a structure that vibrates from waves in the middle ear, propagate through the cochlear fluid. The basilar membrane is topic, so that each frequency has a characteristic of its own.
Pain is your body's way of telling you that something has gone wrong. Individual pain sensitivity varies depending on your genes, your experience, your attention, and your surrounding culture. There is no type of stimulus that triggers pain, like light triggering vision. Instead, there are different nociceptors, or sensory receptors that detect hurtful temperatures, pressures, or chemicals. The nociceptors send an impulse to the spinal cord, which passes a message to the brain that interprets that there is pain. Another sense is taste. The lumps on your tongue are called papillae, and most of them contain taste buds. Taste buds are very sensitive microscopic hairs called microvilli. Those tiny hairs send messages to the brain about how something tastes, so you know if it's sweet, sour, bitter, or salty. Also, there's another sense, smell. Vaporized odor molecules floating in the air reach your nostrils and dissolve on the roof of each nostril. Specialized receptor cells called olfactory receptor neurons detect the odor. These neurons are capable of detecting thousands of different odors. The olfactory receptor neurons transmit the information to the olfactory bulbs, which are located in the back of your nose. The olfactory bulb has sensory receptors that are actually part of the brain, which send messages directly to the limbic system because they are involved with the memory and emotions, which remind us about people, places, or events that are associated with each of these olfactory sensations.